Welcome to Champion Your Culture, the podcast, a weekly live show where we explore the power of culture and leadership in business. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers, and we go live every week to learn from each other and hear from other experts about how to effectively champion our team members and ourselves. So join us live every Wednesday on our social networks or subscribe. You can listen at Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now, let's champion your culture.
Yo, we are here. Listen, I am so excited because it's Wednesday, man. It's hump day.
It is hump day.
I heard a new phrase for Wednesday instead of hump day.
What?
Tuesday's Taco Tuesday. You know what Wednesday is?
What's Wednesday?
Wipe it Wednesday.
Wipe it Wednesday. I was thinking, Wine Wednesday.
Oh, no, wipe it.
Wet wing Wednesday.
Maybe Wet Wednesday. Oh man, yeah. But seriously.
Yeah, so wipe it Wednesday. Yeah, that could go a lot of places. Ryan. What a way to kick off. This episode of Champion Your Culture, the podcast, sponsored by Culture Good. We appreciate everybody out there listening to us, watching. If you're watching live, congratulations, you've made it another Wednesday listening to the Ryan and George rampage of craziness. And so as always, want to thank you for joining. For sure. Make sure as you're tuning in, you like, subscribe, you rate us. That helps us out. That helps reach other people as well. And we're excited about that. We got a lot of crazy things going on in the life. Before we start, Ryan, I feel like it's something as the conversation today goes on. Yeah. Something that we always do. Yeah.
We check in.
How are you doing?
How am I doing? I'm doing pretty well. I last week pulled a muscle in my neck, so thankfully I can actually turn my head today. The last few days I haven't been able to turn my head. It'd been a weird podcast if I was just like this the whole time. Yeah. Hey George.
Robot.
Yeah.
Robot,
very
Ryan.
robotic. Work's going really well with Culture of Good. Real excited because next week we're going to be headed to North Carolina. Big shout out to LA Tour Group and Terry and Scott. Yeah. Yep. So Terry and Scott, what's up? Big shout out to you guys. We're going to be going down there for a 2-day training certification on site.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Yeah. Terry and Scott in person. I've had a friendship with Terry. Yeah. She's part of our HR Summer School alumni with Ben Eubanks, our good friend there. And so it's going to be fun, man. I'm excited to take our certification on the road. Yeah. Those things are really exciting. If you did not know, we always do, quarterly, we'll do a on-site workshop here at our Fishers headquarters. But this is something that we enjoy doing even more. Like we would go on site for organizations that just say, hey, listen, we want it to just be about us in the sense. We want you to come here. Yeah. And so we have the opportunity to really travel together and do our 2-day workshop.
It's a really good first step.
Yeah.
Right. To introducing what it means in terms of a philosophy of a culture of good, what a culture of good would look like in their organization. So it's very tailored in terms of a plan that they can follow in order, as I said, that we would be able to create something that is very specific and unique. Because culture is very unique for every group. I think of it like when I was a kid and I would go to a friend's house and my friend had really cool toys. And, we've talked about this before. He had a fireplace and you could make s'mores inside the house in their wood fireplace. My family didn't have any of that stuff, we didn't have 3-wheelers and what I'm saying? I found a rock and a stick and that was baseball, but I would go to my friend's house and it felt entirely different, not just because of the stuff, but because of the general environment and the feeling of fun. And I remember that just feeling like their family culture was really about fun. And my family culture was a lot about impact and giving back. It wasn't that it wasn't fun, but culture is different and unique everywhere. So I think checking in with each other and then checking in with the culture, which we're going to do shortly, is really good. So I'm glad you checked in, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So, funny story. It's not the single dad mode. Obviously, I'm not single.
Right.
But very few times am I left alone at home. I don't know if because I'm not trusted. Or everybody's seen the roots of, my two brothers, my sister, how, their life has, grown when I was, helping
younger,
getting them prepared for the real world. But it's just me and Dex the last 24, 30 hours. And man, it's crazy. Like I enjoy being alone and having some dude time. We went out and he was craving a burger. So we always have this dudes day. We go to try to find a non-corporate, pizza spot or like a hole in the wall burger spot.
Yeah.
Just get out of the corporate, find a local burger or something different.
Yeah.
And so we did a burger chase last night. We were looking for different types of burger. He loves double cheeseburgers. Anything.
Did you find a good one?
We ended up settling. And I want to say settling. I'm not.
Well, I mean, if it's not the best burger,
well, it was a good burger. It was a decent burger.
Okay.
The taste was decent. Dexter kind of gave it. I believe he gave it like a 6-8, or something.
Out of 10.
Out of 10.
That's
it was
not bad.
It was a good burger. We went to Prodigy Burger and Bar. It was on the south side.
Yeah.
Good burger.
Heard of it. Yep.
They lost a point with him because he's literally playing cheeseburger buns. Like don't like
Right.
and he specifies that
And
I want a double cheeseburger.
They just couldn't do it.
The first time they brought out his plate, it was a double cheeseburger with their special sauce. He took a bite out of it, and I saw this. See, this is where we go wrong, and this is related to the organization as well.
Right.
We know something is not right, and we still let people take a bite out of it.
Yeah.
I saw the sauce. I saw him pick it up, but as a father, I wanted him to just try the sauce. I think you will love it. Like
but he didn't love it.
He took a bite, the sauce dripped, and he spit it out. He didn't chew it. He's like, I tried to taste it. No, if he sees it, he doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
Like he believes whatever's in the meat.
Yeah.
And that cheese.
That's all they need.
Power of a good burger. It's kind of like steak, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't need sauce.
Do you put A1 sauce on your steak?
If I have to put sauce on the steak,
it ain't a good steak.
It's not a good steak.
Yeah.
I gotta get rid of it.
I know someone that puts ketchup on their steak.
Yeah.
I mean, what in the world, man?
So they like their steak well done. Please tell me.
I would imagine so. Yeah. I would think so. And that's how I used to eat my steaks too.
Yeah, me too. I think growing up, there's that fear of nothing should be moving on your. I've seen people like stabbing their steak as it's running away.
Yeah.
Like
rare, now my steak is so rare that I can't walk from behind it because it might kick me. you know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh, that's the flavor of a steak. And you have to have a good steak, right? But honestly, like growing up, it's no wonder because the best restaurant I ever went to growing up was like Ponderosa. I don't know if anybody remembers Ponderosa out there. But
that was back. Ponderosa was the butter bread, the chicken.
Man, if you ever get steak though in a buffet, it's probably not the best steak.
Well, it's not the best steak, but it's been there for a while.
Oh,
I have this.
It's been sitting underneath the heat lamps, bro.
I've seen too many things happen in a buffet line that I am just. I don't care how good the buffet is. I don't care if it's fresh. If I'm not the first person, as soon as it opens up, that goes through the line and get everything that I need.
You told me you don't like buffets. Qatar doesn't like buffets. My wife Qatar, she does not like.
I don't know where your fingers been. I mean, you get people chewing and sneezing and digging and picking and white Wednesdays. Like, don't go to a buffet on a Wednesday.
No. And Mondays, people are showing up to work. They don't like to be there, so don't go on a Monday.
Yep.
What day is the best day to go to a buffet? That's the question. No days. No day. It's the best day for a buffet.
Unless the buffet is at your house. Right. You know how to tell if a good person, like if their kitchen is really good. You know where to look, right?
Right.
The microwave.
If it's clean, if the microwave's dirty, everything dirty.
Yeah.
If your microwave's dirty, your whole life is.
Yeah.
If you want to know what your soul looks like, look inside your microwave.
Look in your microwave. Like there's two rooms in a house, the bathroom
and the kitchen.
Look beside the toilet and see if they wipe the corners of the toilet. It's a weird thing that I do.
Now I'm going to have to do that every time you come over. I'm going to make sure my toilets are spotless. Smell like bleach.
Yeah. Shout out to Nikki Lamb. She's at my house right now cleaning my house. We got a lot of we coming back home to Indiana. It's been beautiful.
More
we got
support.
A lot of support.
Yeah, it's good, man.
So we have our furniture coming in a few days. And so Nikki's over there. Shout out to her. She's wiping. I'm talking about like grandma and them wiping. She's
Wipe it Wednesday.
Wiping Wednesday.
She's wiping the house down now.
Pine saw on the baseboards, like all the good stuff, dusting and everything. So you need a good wipe. I guess wiping Wednesday is it's a thing now.
Yo, it's
now. I have to get video footage
instead of a camel. We're gonna put Mr. Miyagi up.
Yeah, wipe on.
Yeah, that's right.
That's great. That is great. And so, yeah, that's been good. Yesterday, I attended a webinar with Ben Eubanks and with Quantum Workplace.
Okay,
great organization, great company, and they had a question. I'm interested in this question, and I want to just do it here. If you're listening live to us this morning, I'm gonna ask a question. I want you guys to just join in live, not live. Just keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
Is it soda, pop, or Coke?
It's a really great question because, and I'll answer that. It's all three of those. It depends on where you live. Now, I grew up in Indiana.
Yep.
When I was about 9 or 10 when I first went to Yonkers, New York, where my grandparents were.
Yeah.
And my late grandparents, and they had a pool at their apartment complex in Yonkers. Now, this is way back in the day. And little condo that they had, or apartment, and we went out to the pool, and I'm like, I'm thirsty. And so I went up to the desk and I said, I would like a pop. And the lady just looked at me. I kid you not, man. It's funny that you asked a question. Like, I want a pop. And they're like, they just look at me and they asked a question. They said, like a lollipop? And I was like, no, like a drink. And I didn't even know. No one gave me a heads up. So I'm calling it pop. We were actually, my cousin came down, Ted, big shout out to Ted. Ted came down this last week and hung out with his 2 kids. And and what was funny is we talked about this almost the whole time, because the kids were like, nah, it's soda, it's soda, it's soda. So eventually I had to learn at that pool that it's actually called soda. So the question is, who's right?
Yeah.
It's not what's it called, it's who's right. It's definitely not called Coke.
Yeah.
Because if you drink a Pepsi, you can't ask for a Coke.
See, that's the problem down south. When I moved to Alabama in 2008,
is it Coke down there?
And then obviously living in Georgia and then Tennessee, everything's Coke. And so,
oh, interesting.
What do you want? Is Coke or sweet tea?
So what do you ask for though? Coke, Pepsi?
So then it's like, hey, what would you like? I like a Coke. What kind of Coke would you like?
Oh, interesting.
So it's a conversation. So Coke. But the problem is that you can say, hey, I want a Coke. What kind of Coke do you have? What's your Coke product?
Yeah.
Oh, we have Pepsi. Cola. Because Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola. That's the only way I can bring everything together. I'm growing up here.
So let's just call it cola.
Growing up in Indiana, I always was called soda pop. But in the hood,
oh, interesting. I only called it pop.
Yeah, because where we came from, we always shorten everything.
That's really interesting. Pop. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
We ain't got time to say 2 words when we say 1 word, right? That's how we did things.
Yeah.
So give me a pop.
Fago pop. Fago pop. It wasn't no Fago soda.
It wasn't even Fago. It was like, give me a grape pop.
Yeah, grape pop, orange pop.
Yeah, we called it by the color. We didn't even know like the flavor. No, we want the color. We want that red one.
Yes. We want that red dye in there.
Yeah. What kind of red?
Red dye number 2. I want the number 2 red dye. Yeah, absolutely, man.
So we got a good mix.
So yeah, what are people saying?
Some people are saying soda. Some people say soda pop. But right now in our chat, it's soda. That's what everybody's saying. And so we got some people from DC. And it was soda pop growing up, but it was always pop. Now growing up, one of the things I had to do with my grandma and other ladies in the neighborhood, whenever you served an elder a drink, a pop, you know how to serve it without getting smacked?
No.
You always had to wrap it with a napkin.
Okay.
A napkin.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I never knew that.
I didn't know that either.
I thought they were just hitting me because I was bad.
They never told you why.
They never told me the rule.
Every time you brought,
I just had to watch everybody.
It's almost like you got punished for just bringing.
Like, are you? Are you gonna blow your nose before you drink?
Oh, I get it now.
Is that the do?
That's. I bet what happened is you called it a soda and they said pop. Anyway, oh God, this combo, I think we need to get into the meat of it, yo.
Yeah.
Because this check-in piece is really important for those leaders that we have.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is if you go on our website right now, we just threw up a diagnostic tool. Now it's a survey that's based on 7 criteria that we would say, if you can hit these criteria and really focus on these 7 elements of your culture, you're on to something really special.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're wanting to do, is not go into an organization and change their culture, but it is transformative, right? We're going through change consistently. We're evolving. You know, we've done a lot of check-ins individually.
Yeah.
You know, everybody jumps on with us every week. We know we check in with each other, but also just checking in with our team, with our organization, and saying, how are we doing? Right? Like, we ask, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And the idea is not to get the quick answer, I'm great. Like, there are people that, as I'm walking through the hallways here at our headquarters in Fishers, Indiana, that I say, how you doing? They say good. And they say, how are you doing? I say good. And we move on. But when we are checking in, that's a different, how are you doing?
Yeah.
When I say, how are you doing? And there's a conversation around that. Now I'm learning more about you, the condition of what you see in terms of life, the struggles, the challenges, but also the celebration and the wins. I have something to celebrate with you, right?
Yeah.
Like when I hear your story, I know more about how you're really doing.
Right.
So the question is, within our company, within our teams, how is your team, those that are listening, and even for us, how is our team doing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how are they feeling? And we talk about culture being how most people feel, believe, and behave most of the time. And some leaders don't want to know how people are feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. It's for many reasons.
Yeah.
Some leaders are just not able to relate or connect in that way.
Yeah.
Some of them are just, hey, strictly business, no personal. And there's a challenge. I think there has to be a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to know the odds, and I don't need to know every deep root about your life or your
Yeah.
family. But if you choose to share it with somebody,
Yeah.
I hope that you will have someone. But really understanding, hey, how you're doing could just simply be, hey, a lot of stuff is going on at home. I'm trying not to let it affect me.
Yeah, that's your role.
That's
the check-in with the
Yeah.
role, right? We
Yeah.
talk about check-ins with each individual, doing that RSVP, and I know we hit on that every once in a while, and we'll be hitting on that even deeper in the coming weeks. But that is the idea. It's finding out, and the deeper I get to know someone, the stronger my leadership in their life.
Yeah.
We talked about it last week, I can't lead someone I don't know. Therefore, I have to know myself really well so I can lead myself. Same with our team, with our organization. So this diagnostic tool isn't the end all be all silver bullet. You fill this out and everything starts to change.
Right.
Things are changing whether we choose them to or not. So how are we leading the team and the organization through change? Is there clarity around purpose? So we have these 7 criteria, and we just want to kind of go through this today and say, these are things we need to be asking in terms of the focus of how healthy is our culture.
Yeah.
I went to the doctor recently for a checkup. You know, like, that's what we're doing here. And I could say, well, I went 6 months ago and I was fine. So why do I need to go now?
Yeah.
And people do that all the time. I know people haven't been to the doctor for a checkup for years.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I went. When'd you go? It was a while back.
Yeah.
You know, like,
been a year or two.
Yeah, it's been a year or
Yeah.
two, which means 5. And it's like, the problem is, a lot can happen in that year.
Yeah.
A lot can happen in those 5 years. And you've evolved as a person. Your body's different. So when you go in for that checkup, you might find out some things are different.
Yeah.
And that's why we consistently want to check in with our team and our organization. This diagnostic tool is really focused organizationally in saying, all right, this gives us a kind of a high level snapshot that we as a team can help. For those that fill that out, we can help give some direction and guidance and say, hey, here's some things you may consider. Oh, here's a workshop that we provide and we offer that can help raise the success of that area of your culture. Like, if you're struggling in the area of leadership and alignment with the vision and values, like, we can help you with that.
Yeah.
But we don't know where someone is in terms of their culture, where the organization is, until we have a check-in and a snapshot of looking at that. It's like going to the doctor, taking your blood work, reading the chart, you know, and then the doctor calls you and says, okay, here's what we're seeing in your blood work.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the chart. And that's what we do with this diagnostic tool. So it's not just this automated thing. You also, if you fill out the diagnostic tool, you also have the opportunity then to have that meeting with us, with your doctors, to be able to go through that and say, here's what we're seeing. Here's what we would suggest, right? Nothing, no, like, here's 1, 2, and 3, but here's some steps to start moving in the direction of having greater alignment with your vision and your leadership, or whatever the set, one of those 7 might be a little weaker than the other 6, right? And so we want to find that and see the patterns and say, okay, here's what we're seeing. Here's how we know, proven methods to begin to address that and engage people on a different level.
Yeah. So really understanding where you are and where you need to be.
Well, you can't go
checking your vitals,
where you're headed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Checking your vitals.
Checking
what's your blood
side.
pressure like? What's your heartbeat?
Yep.
Right. That's the purpose side of it.
The basic side of things that you do when you're going to a doctor, the company and the organization, your organization, and then you as an individual, you have those same things that you have to do. And so understanding where your blood pressure, I always think it's funny. Dexter just had his checkup a month ago before school.
Yeah.
And like his fear is the shot. Like, like he's been through these a few now, back to school once in a while. And man, his blood pressure was crazy.
Yeah.
Why? Because he was worried about the possibility of what could be, right?
Yeah.
And so, but everything else he did, like he did like clockwork. He went in, got on the way, they weighed him, went around a corner, took his height, like measuring where you are. Right? Have you grown? Have you had some setbacks? Just those basic things that you do in the checkup from a doctor's standpoint. The same thing you need to do as an organization, having those basic things that you do, walking in, checking the weight.
Yeah.
Right? That weight could be the culture, the weight of the burden of your leaders.
Yeah.
What's on their shoulders? Are they healthy in that capacity? What does the blood pressure look like?
Because if you don't look at it organizationally, you know, an organization is made of teams. Teams are made of individuals. We talk about all the time, self, team, business, right? I mean, if you're going to focus on the culture, self, team, business, there's those 3 stakeholder profiles that need to be considered. If we can get a snapshot of the organization in terms of its health or unhealth, we can identify, okay, this, if it's unhealthy up here, there's probably team dynamics that need to be addressed. There's individual influencers and those that are impacting the culture in positive and negative ways that we need to identify. And we need to uplift the culture. The way you uplift the culture is what? You uplift the people.
Yeah.
And so while we're doing this checkup, it enables us as leaders to be able to say, okay, now we know what our vitals are. It's exactly what you're saying, man. Yeah. Now we know what, and when the doctor says, okay, you need to walk 20 minutes a day for your heart health because you have high blood pressure, or maybe you need to lay off the salt for a while, you know, a little bit of salt, or you're eating too much sugar. Yeah. Then we have a direction. Yeah. But what we're finding many times in business is every company has culture, but they don't have, that doesn't necessarily mean they have a culture plan.
Yeah.
And every company has a culture. And if you don't have a culture plan and clarity around that, then you have a culture by chance and not by choice. Yeah. And so the choice is, let's check in now. Let's have a good, bad, and ugly look at what's going on, and let's address it.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't want to go to the doctor. Why? Because we don't want to find out.
Fear of the unknown.
Well, we don't want to know that we got an issue.
Yeah.
So as long as we don't ever check in.
Yeah.
And so we get in this motion of like,
it's not bothering me, so why do I need to bother it?
Right.
Mentality.
But it could be bothering other people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It could be bothering you. You just not noticing because you have learned to block it out.
It's your thing.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's like somebody with really stank breath.
Yeah. They don't know how bad it is.
They have no idea. They go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, you know, your breath stinks. Yeah. And they're like, no. Why? Because your nose is right next to your mouth. You've been smelling it your whole life. And so that's the kind of thing is like, you don't want to know what the issue is.
Yeah.
My dad got scratched by a dog, and actually took him yesterday to the VA. He's a Vietnam vet. Shared a little bit about him in the past, but he got a scratch on his arm, and he thought, well, this dog jumped up on me, scratched my arm, like every other scratch, it's going to go away and be fine. And within like a week, he ended up in bed, not able to move. We had no idea he was in bed. He totally infected and just almost had to lose his, by almost, I mean, it was in his blood, like the infection that got in his blood. And so we were so close, but had he just gone in and got it treated earlier, then he wouldn't be dealing with this massive, I may need to cut your arm off. You know what I'm saying? And so when we're checking in and doing that type of work, it enables us to be able to say, what is it that I need to do right now? What are some action steps I need to take in order to have an impact or set an example of this? We always talk about leadership as an example. So I just want to go through the 7 kind of focus areas of culture that we have within this diagnostic. And when you're taking the diagnostics, it's on our website, cultureofgood.com / something. You'll put it up on the, or I can put it in the chat. And so when we're taking this, what we want to do is consider these 7 areas of the business. You're not going to see these in the questions, but when we send you some of your report, that will enable us to be able to say, okay, here's the area that we're noticing needs a greater focus. So here's the 7. You ready for them?
You want to do crazies?
Let's do that. Let's do that first, and then we're going to go into the 7. So you guys stay with us. When we come back after the craziest shit of HR, we're going to have the 7 areas of criteria that we're looking at in terms of this. So this is the segment we call the craziest shit in HR, brought to you by the Culture of Good. All right.
So I want to share this story by sharing a story. So
okay.
For those of you who don't know, I was adopted by a beautiful family.
Yes.
And both mom and dad, Tim and Kathy McNamee, are both legally blind.
Yes.
And so
I've driven with Tim. I'm aware of this.
So because they had to get around, they actually created on a regular pair of glasses. He basically has a telescope. Like if you and I put this on, we can see literally, it's probably a good half a mile across the street from the next building over there.
Yeah.
I could see probably through their window. That's how strong they are.
Oh, good.
Maybe not literally, but he can, like, from his vision, it brought everything to him. So it allowed him and enabled him to be able to drive.
That's cool.
But still, you had to warn him that, hey, Pops, that light's red. You're looking at the other light. There's some moments we may have hit a couple.
Yeah, because you're seeing a red light.
Yeah, you don't want to go through the ATM with Pops because he might not.
And there's some streets that I have really good vision. I have no idea where I'm going half the time with the arrows and stuff. So I'm sure
so mom and dad are
problematic.
And they were Pops was a pastor, children's pastor, and one day on the kids stage, children's church stage, mom was just yelling at me, and I heard her yelling,
right?
So, but I didn't know she was yelling at me. She was so frustrated that I was ignoring her and not paying attention that she was like purple. Like she was frustrated. The problem, Ryan, is that she was yelling at a silhouette that was a cutout
like
cardboard.
A cutout cardboard
that was on the stage.
Oh,
so she's yelling at this cutout cardboard, thinking that it was me.
Oh my
God, it was not me.
Kathy.
So, needless to say, I open up this craziest shit in HR story with sharing a person's story.
Yes.
Because this story
is relatable. You get it.
I get it. This could have been my mom and dad. This could have been dad. He had a passion for art.
Yeah.
I would love to share some of his stories that happened. Anywho, so this lady and I'll just say this lady who worked in HR, she was in the HR for a nonprofit.
Yeah.
That specifically hired people that were legally blind. Right.
Gotcha.
And so they were on this mission. That was the mission, is to hire, to be able to provide and create that diversity of being able to provide jobs for legally blind people. One day, 2 employees, though, got into a fight. And it was a really bad fight. One was partially sighted and the other person was totally blind.
Yeah.
and was swinging the cane. Right. So they're fighting.
They're fighting with the canes.
One's totally blind and just swinging the cane. and the other one's partially cited. So there was a lot of dipping and dodging. Well, afterwards, everything settled down. The HR, person had 4 witnesses to the altercation.
Yeah.
The only problem though is that every one of the witnesses was totally blind and couldn't tell what happened.
You got to go by word of mouth.
It was word of mouth. Like, how many times did the cane, make a crazy? How do you report that? You can't report that if nobody saw it.
No, there was no
I heard there was an
account.
altercation, but I don't know.
One of the funniest things that you said in that whole story is you said it yourself. You said there was a lot of dipping and dodge. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball. If you could dodge a wrench, if you could dodge a cane.
Yeah. So crazy story.
That is, my friends, brought to you by Culture Good, the craziest shit in nature. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. So let's get into these 7 Ryan, organizational culture health diagnostic tools that we are going to have.
Yeah.
You can actually find it on our website. It's on the screen right now that you'll be able to go to. It's culturegood.com/culture-diagnostic.
Yep.
So you can find this, or just go to culturegood.com and be able to take this tool. And we'll follow with you with the outcomes and kind of walk you through that with the organization, and be able to help you potentially with some next steps.
Yeah.
And
that's a free call, obviously. So, and that's a consulting call. We can talk over your culture, give you some steps. If you want to engage with what we offer in your organization, if that works and there's alignment, great. If not, cool. We want to spread this message and help. We're in this for impact. And so if we can impact your organization, jump on and take the tool. Here's what we're focused on. Number 1, leadership and vision alignment. Number 2, so that's leadership and vision alignment. Number 2, employee engagement and empowerment.
Yep.
Right. Number 3, communication and transparency.
Yeah.
Number 4, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
Right. Belonging is an aspect of that we always talk about all the time. Number 5 is collaboration and teamwork. Number 6 is adaptability and change management. And number 7 is purpose-driven engagement. So there's engagement, but it's about leading from engagement to effectiveness.
Yeah.
We need to have effective cultures. We need to think about it in terms of how well is my culture, like we talked about. How are we doing? How are we doing with, and let's talk through it. Let's talk about leadership and vision alignment, right? Because that's a big one, man. If you don't have leadership in the business that is aligned with the vision and that the team is consistently communicating with clarity. Yeah. There's clarity around the vision. There's clarity around the values. People know how and why this organization exists in the first place, right? Yeah. But if there's a misalignment, you've been in organizations where the values say one thing and the leadership lives another.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your values say. It matters how your leaders lead.
Yeah.
And how your leaders lead, that's your value. So that vision alignment's huge.
Yeah. Another thing that I think stands out when it comes to the leadership and vision portion of it is when employees understand how their actual work contributes. Right?
Yeah.
There's that connection there where their work really contributes to the overall vision of the organization. When I think about that, that really stands out because a lot of people are just working. You got people that just work for so long. We just worked.
Yeah.
Didn't know the purpose of why. Didn't have a sense of purpose. Didn't have a sense of belonging.
Right.
It was just work.
You're just working for a paycheck.
Work, check. Right.
Yeah.
Pay some bills. Hang up on some bill collectors. Work. Check. Right. It was like there was no sense of purpose, and I think through the pandemic over these last 3 years, in particular, it's really been spotlighted.
Yeah.
Employees are no longer saying work check, work check.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work-life rhythm.
Yeah.
As we done it, it's no longer work-life balance. It's just what's the rhythm right now?
What's the heartbeat?
How am I engaged? Do I have a sense of belonging? Am I fostering that sense of belonging? And a lot of that is tied to what am I doing here?
Yeah. And how is my example also aligned with what we're saying?
Yeah.
Because that's a huge one.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot because with middle managers are trying to hear the vision and everything from their leadership, but they're also trying to engage with their teams at the same time and carry this initiative that's going on. And yet, so kind of caught in the middle between senior leadership and frontline employees and team members in that middle management, that key is really crucial too, because leadership matters. I would also add, as a caveat to all of this, make sure your vision, your purpose, mission, whatever you want to call it, is compelling.
Yeah.
Like why in the hell would I ever want to be a part of your culture? It's not why are people leaving? Again, we've asked that question. The question now is, why are people staying?
Yeah.
People stay because there's a leadership and vision alignment. The second thing, employee engagement and empowerment. Are there opportunities provided for employees for professional and personal growth? When we say that, we're saying the word development, right? How are we providing development, empowerment for our employees? Because how do they set the example for new employees coming in, right? Yeah. That engagement and empowerment is really crucial. Yeah. Is the culture cultivating that? Are the leaders cultivating that type of empowerment? Yeah. And is there true actual engagement happening?
Yeah. Ownership of what
yeah, that feeling of ownership, for sure.
Expectations and how we can really bring together what we do with why we're doing it.
Yeah.
In that aspect. I remember, and shout out to Rob McDaniel, a good friend of mine's in Nashville with S3 Recycling Solutions. One of the things that he always really set an example for with the leadership team as well was staying engaged and really empowering those on our team. Like there was we talk about lower level employees. I don't like that word. I like frontline employees, but how do we keep them engaged? And it was always about our core values tying into that thing. And I don't know if they changed, but if they haven't changed, last year around this time, when I was with them, they had DISC, D-I-S-C.
Yeah.
It was dependability, integrity, sustainability, and community. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that was part of what we did as an organization that kept us engaged.
Yeah.
Am I dependable? Not just to our clients, but to each other. How each department really, sets aside and really helps, that standard of expectation. Keeping our core values in that engagement and then that empowerment. And then every week, every Thursday after our huddles, we ended with the same words. Nothing shall be impossible. Right. Nice. We stayed engaged because no matter what we were facing, nothing shall be impossible.
Yeah.
If we have each other's back, if we're dependable, if we do things with integrity, sustainability and community, we're tying all these things together.
Yeah.
That was more than just four words on a wall. It was more than just 4 words on our badges and things of that nature. That engagement was what we do.
Yeah.
From a daily, my role and my responsibility is to be dependable, do it with integrity, be sustainable, and everything that I do so that we can impact the community.
Yeah.
Right. And so it really tied into what we were doing. And I think when you're able to not just work, but when you talk about being engaged and empowered, not just from a piece of paper of job description.
Yeah.
But true leadership where you're developing. George is being developed by his leader, right? Ryan is developing George, not just to benefit the business, but just life, right? And so when you're empowering people, you're leading people to grow, right? Because it's beyond what you can do. It's about what you empower others to do is where the impact really comes from.
Yeah. And I think within this engagement, empowerment of employees, the piece that is really crucial is giving the autonomy to employees. You talked about that sense of ownership or that mindset. Well, the way that we can build that within the culture and cultivate that type of mindset is to provide autonomy so that when I have ideas, I can bring them to the table without retribution. I think some people are afraid to feel empowered or afraid to make a decision because they've seen other people make decisions and then get punished for it at work, right? Like if somebody fails, the last thing you want to do as a leader is point out their failure, right? Now, we talked about celebrating failure, but a lot of times when failure is talked about, it's talked about in a negative sense. And when we do that, we create a culture where people aren't bringing fresh ideas. Things are becoming less in terms of stable. They're just stuck.
Yeah.
And everything's like stuck and we're not moving forward. So we have to provide autonomy. The third thing, communication and transparency. We talk about the main concern of employees right now is around clarity with direction, clarity with communication. We don't know to your point, if we don't know where we're at, how do we know where we're going? So being transparent about where we're at as a company, what we were attempting to accomplish. I mean, the day of fudging numbers to make people feel like we're doing okay as a company is like past. People want to know what's going on. I think about it like with the government right now with aliens. It's like, be transparent. Don't just tell us there's weird things flying around in the sky. I want to know, what are the weird things? You know what I'm saying? Like not that I believe in aliens, might, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, when there's not transparency, there's lack of trust.
Yeah.
When there's a lack of trust, there's a lack of new, fresh, innovative ideas, because if I don't trust you, I bring nothing new to the table, because I don't know if me bringing that to the table is going to impact my standing in the workplace. So I just keep it chill. You got those quiet quitters. They're just doing what needs to be done to get through the week, to get the paycheck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because they're checked out.
Yeah.
Instead of checking in, they're checked out.
Yeah.
Oh, weird. If you don't check in, your people will check out.
And another thing is that some people are checking out early. I mean, think about this. There's a lot of people going to the doctor, but they ain't got the patience to wait for what's going on, or they've already been saying, hey, you're going to be released today. I'm not waiting for any release papers. I'm not waiting for anything else. I'm just ready to get out of here.
Right.
So people are checking out before they even get the diagnostics. People are checking out before they even get the release.
Yes.
Right. It's because I think about this, and it reminds me a lot of growing up when it comes to transparency and communication, right? As a parent, you feel like it's important not to expose your kids to certain things.
Right.
Something that really benefited me was true transparency. Like, I knew we were poor.
Yeah.
Right. I knew that we struggled. I knew that growing up, I didn't have the best lifestyle, but I had the best lifestyle provided to me within the means that my mom had. Right.
Right.
And then being adopted and been, exposed to a different lifestyle. There was like, there was actually Captain Crunch. I thought it was Captain O's growing up. You know what I'm saying? Kicks. I didn't know there was extra peanut butter in a jar that you didn't have to already. I always had the peanut butter with the oil on top.
The big white.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's how that was our peanut butter. Else. The big block of cheese.
Yeah.
Big old block.
That ripped you ate peanut butter for a week because it was just stuck in the back of your gums.
It's still there.
Cheese and stuff.
I feel like I might have some still stuck between the two.
We be out in recess and I just had a snack back there. But in all seriousness, we try to, and this happens in the workplace, we try to cover and thinking that we're protecting.
Yeah.
But when reality comes in the workplace where we put this little, we're doing great. And everything's so beautiful, but hey, we got to make some cuts. Things don't make sense.
Well, I know. I've been in meetings and companies. Yeah. It's just like,
be transparent. Like, hey, we aren't hitting our numbers, right? This is what we got to do to hit our numbers. This is some of the things that we need to change. This is how we're going to kind of move this. If we cannot do this, we're going to have to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
Right. It may be a bad situation for a lot of people because they say, then George, you're putting fear in your people's heart.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Yeah. In terms of what?
In terms of being clear, transparent.
Well, I don't think, one of the things that I would say in terms of leadership, we need to have a communication strategy.
Yep.
Because if you don't have a communication strategy, people don't know what needs to be shared with who, when.
Yeah. So
part of change management, and we talk about this as part of the 7 criteria that we look at in terms of cultural health. We would look at that and say that we want to have that clarity in terms of communication, but the plan matters, because what do people need to know that will provide enough transparency so that they can contribute and be a part of this? Every layer of leadership doesn't need to know every single detail of everything happening in the business. And that's why the plan matters, because how do you know what to share with who if we've not communicated that?
Right.
If we've not had clarity in terms of communication with each other, how do we? So within our executive leadership, senior leadership, those that have a greater opportunity to set the example of the culture within those meetings, we have to be asking that question. Do we have the opportunity then to be able to say, yes, it's what we know is going to be the way that we communicate. This is what people need to know right now. Not everybody needs to know everything all the time either. Too much communication can be a failure in communication. Too much transparency can do what that's how if it's causing fear and anxiety, it's what we would call, I hate to say it, but it's above the pay grade.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, who needs to know what are those stakeholders? That's part of your communication strategy. And I would say what's unique about what we're talking about here is when we focus on this, we're saying, okay, then what is your plan?
Yeah.
Not just, okay, here's the issues or here's the areas where we need to grow and have more transparency, but we need to know when to say what to who and promptly do that and have that plan so that we can say, okay, we're doing that right now.
I just want to make sure we elaborate on that so people don't say, hey, you got to share everything. There's certain things that you share, right? There's certain things you tell your kid to do and not to do, why, and things of that nature. And there's some things in conversations you just don't have in front of you.
Absolutely.
Until they become of age, right? Until they get to a certain point. Number 4, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want to move these. Again, you can find all these on culturegood.com. The link is on the screen right now. You can find a lot of things that.
And if we don't hit all 7 on this, we'll hit it on next week. But yeah. So number 4,
find this diagnostic tool actually live on our website as well. Number 4, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is important because as we're talking about being transparent, right, and inclusion and involving diversity. Think about our old shit, HR conversation. That diversity. When people hear diversity, Ryan, something that's really, as a Black man, when I say diversity, naturally people say, "Oh, he's talking about race."
Right.
But diversity is not just race. It's race.
That is
ethnicity,
and
gender, and right. There's so many other things. It's age. Could be a factor in diversity. Are you being diverse? Not just hiring a bunch of young pups. Are you diverse in that area?
Physical challenges, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And are you prepared for those type of diversity as well?
Yeah.
And so it's not a program. It's a strat. It's part. This D&I is a strategy, just like culture is
built into the culture. It's in it, just like you're saying, communications. Like same thing.
D&I is part of the DNA.
Yeah.
Of your organization.
Good. Yeah.
Right. So promoting that within your organization is important as well.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. When we think about, are we actively promoting that within the values of the organization in terms of different perspectives that are provided? We know that teams that have diversity, not just for diversity's sake, we need to get beyond diversity to really having that sense of belonging. If we're talking about DEI all the time, we need to be intentional about it. We need to be focused on it. But, in a general sense, people need to feel like they belong no matter what, unless they're like a horrible employee. Like that's the diversity you don't want. But in terms of how you feel a sense of belonging in the environment and how I do, although that may feel different because we come from different perspectives, that actually is powerful in terms of our ability to bring a different perspective to the table. Now, but in the sense of belonging in general, everybody should have that sense that it doesn't matter where you come from, your background, whether it's a physical challenge to your point or anything else. We should fully the sense of culture, how most people feel. If your culture within your business, if most people don't feel like they belong, that means if you just have some that feel that, then what we've created is a culture of sameness. And a culture of sameness is headed toward a culture of nothing because it just dissolves. But when we have that culture of diversity and we're intentional about that, those perspectives that are brought to the table actually strengthens the team, which strengthens the organization. So when we do this, we think of it in terms of planning, not just, like you said, a program, having actual strategy to follow. Here's the question. We've just got a few minutes left. Next week, we're going to jump into the last 3 on the diagnostic tool. But let's talk about, as we kind of close in on this today, what are things that in terms of that you've seen that and Lighthouse is picking up that are standing out to you generally across the board when it comes to the things that we've talked about today? We talk about belonging a lot, but when we talk about DEI, that talks about belonging as well. But when we talk about empowerment, development, I know most companies are doing training in terms of an ongoing development program. A lot of companies don't have that. What are you seeing? What's Lighthouse seeing in terms of the 4 that we hit on today?
Yeah, obviously the belonging piece is huge. That's always, brought in because I feel like leadership is impacted by leadership. People don't belong and have that sense of belonging, or foster that sense of belonging if leadership, isn't giving them that, right? So we talk about that psychological definition of belonging all the time.
Yeah.
Do I feel respected, accepted, and appreciated by my direct leader?
Yeah.
If I don't feel all three of those, the level of me actually feeling like I have a high level of me having a sense of belonging is really not there.
For sure.
Right. And so if I don't belong, how engaged am I?
Yeah.
How empowered do I feel if my leader doesn't respect me or appreciates me or accepts me for who I am? Right. So that's that diversity. Yesterday, I was asked a question, and it really was a great question. How does D&I impact culture?
Yeah.
Right. If you don't have D&I within your organization, and it's not about who you are, like it's not a part of your identity, you're just trying to implement a program just to say you're doing it as an organization, it's going to impact your culture, because those people who are part of that, right, are going to be impacted by that. They're going to see that you truly don't care for them, that there's no true respect. It's just, let's say that we did it, and get patted on the back, just along with our values and mission statement that's also on the wall, to make it look like we're the best places to work.
Of course,
America.
We all like those banners, man.
we love those things. So, when it comes to this stuff, Ryan, leadership is really, we've been saying a lot, everything rises and falls on leadership, and really everything rises and falls on the culture of your organization.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not just leaders that have to impact that. That is everybody. Culture is, Quantum Workplace had their statement on what culture is how we do things. It's how we communicate. It's how we behave.
Like the behavior side of it.
Yeah. So it's, their communication, it's just how we do things. How we do things. What does that mean? It's how we communicate. It's how we behave. It's how we serve. It's just how we, like, everything is just that's how we do it. Right.
Yeah.
And so how do we do it? How do we do our culture here? Right. Yeah. We can say our culture is really built around our 5 promises. Right. Being authentic is so, when it comes to what we're seeing, everything really ties together with leadership, right? And then everything really flows from there. Good leaders have people who want to stay.
Yeah.
Great leaders have people that's willing to take a leap and go somewhere else. Why? Because Ryan's preparing me to be more. Ryan is a great leader for George. Yeah. George may not be here every day, for the rest of his life, because what Ryan has done to him, that's giving him this huge mindset that, hey, I can take a leap beyond there, right? So you got some people that are really good and they love their leader and they stay. You got some leaders that are really great and they are casting out and say, hey, it's your time. Right. You're ready for it. I'm not going to hold you back. Go out into that world. So I think it's important to understand the importance of, as we talk about these first 4, we talk about the leadership, we talk about employee engagement and empowerment, we talk about communication and transparency, and the D&I. You'll see it next week when you join us next week. You'll see how everything really ties together on the sense of belonging. You'll see everything ties together on how culture does impact a lot of things. And I'll bring more true data as we're releasing in
some numbers,
some numbers, and I'll provide a link.
Awesome.
That everybody can go to lhra.io.
I've got an idea with the data part too. Like when we bring data in, I want to change the song "What Does the Fox Say" to "What Does the Data Say." What does the data say?
We should have Ben's face like pop up into a million different things.
I don't know if we can accomplish that by next week, but maybe we can have a what does the data say? But that's it, and we appreciate you jumping on today, because this is crucial. Again, if you're not checking in, your people are checking out. You have to check in, and this piece as a part 1 of this conversation around checking in around your culture. It's really checking in with your people. It's looking at an overall scope of what are we doing, right? Like Quantum said, like, this is what we do, right? Our culture is what we do. And that leads us to understand how people are believing about our culture. And that leads us to how we know people feel. And we want people to feel engaged and feel like they belong. Because if I don't feel like I belong, it doesn't matter if I appreciate people. You know what I'm saying? So we want to build on this next week. So make sure that you join us next week. And you have anything else?
No, I will share this stat, because when it comes to We mentioned the whole best places to work. When employees are staying, for those people who say, I'm staying in my job, I love what I do, who I do it with, why,
right.
Everything's really tied together. I got a great leader. I have a sense of belonging. Employees that recommend their employers as a great place to work, one of the things that really stood out to me, are 9 times more likely to feel appreciated for their contributions at their work, right? 9 times more likely. So for those people who say, you know what, I'm ready to leave, I'm ready to get out of here, I don't recommend this place, the other people say, when they have a sense of belonging, they're enjoying where they're working at, and they appreciate it, 9 times more likely. The other one that was really standing out to me is that they're 6 times more frequently that their company provides opportunities for recognition and appreciation for their work.
There you go.
There's a tie into that. Engaged empowerment is also recognizing and respecting what you're bringing to the table. Your contribution of what you're doing matters because of how it impacts. That's that leadership standpoint that we said, the number one thing, leadership and vision alignment, that your contributions of what you're doing is for a greater purpose, right? It connects to our vision and our mission. And that vision and mission eventually, and I won't tease it, but number 7 of next week.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So let's take those stats. We'll unpack it next week. Make sure that you join us on Champion Your Culture. Hi, friends. Thanks for joining us on Champion Your Culture podcast today.
We're so excited that you're here and want to invite you to connect with us. You can watch the show weekly on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and listen anywhere you get podcasts.
Subscribe today to get new relevant content each week on how to champion yourself and your team. Thanks again for listening to Champion Your Culture.